What's up, everyone? It's Cannan back with another video, and I am live from Raw. No, not really. I wish. But, so, when Endwalker first came out, I did a little video about giving my experiences with the expansion, and sadly, at that time, I didn't have a whole lot to say because I couldn't get into the game. I'm sure a lot of Final Fantasy XIV fans remember that when Endwalker first came out, there was a huge problem in getting into the game. I remember being very angry because I had pre-ordered Endwalker just so I could do the early access, and I barely got to play any of the early access time because I simply could not log into the game. Now, I'm sure a lot of people know, but for those who don't, Endwalker was the culmination of the story that started in A Realm Reborn, which was almost 10 years worth of storytelling coming to a close. So that was one reason why a lot of people could not wait to play it. But also because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it caused a very large surge of new players in Endwalker. And so when Endwalker finally launched, you had some insane queue times. Now, they had set up beforehand that they had not been able to update their servers because of a lack of, I forgot what things they needed, but there was a shortage of them. Now, I did find a workaround because, like I said, there would be times where I couldn't even connect to the data center from the start screen without the game crashing. And then when you did get to the character select screen, you were met with a bunch of question marks because your character data wouldn't even load because of how loaded the login was. Now, when I actually tried, you would get insane numbers. I think I first experienced like a 20,000 wait queue. There were some who got even more, and you would have to sit there for hours watching the numbers tick down, and then boom, an error. It would error out, and then you'd have to start all over. Now, my workaround was I had to play the game after midnight. Around 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, the queue times would be way down because everyone's going to sleep and stuff like that. And so, yeah, that is when I played most of Endwalker until the queue times finally chilled out. So, of course, going into Dawntrail, there was a lot of jokes about the queue times. Now, Square and Yoshi P both said that they had beefed up their servers, they had new data centers and all that, to where there really should not be a problem. But if there was a long wait time, just please stay in line. They said that it should not error out, and that if you do leave, you'd be put back at the end of the line. And I have to say, like, I did not get to play Dawntrail right away. Had to work that day, and of course, me and Jess play the game together, so I was going to have to wait on her, even if I had been off. So we get home, and I think on day one, day one was the longest one. No, wait, no, it was the second day. First day, it was like 400. And I was shocked. And we did quickly get into the game. We played for a good while. Then the second day, it was a little over 1,000. But once again, nothing compared to what Endwalker had. Now, as early access ended, I was worried once the full release date came and everyone could play, it was going to go back to larger numbers, 1,000 or more. And actually, no, that didn't happen. The very first day of it being released to everyone, you gotta remember, this is everyone that's already playing. This is including the new Xbox players. The queue for me and Jess on the official release day of Dawntrail, 42 people. We were 42nd and 43rd in line. I was blown away. I was like, wow, they really stepped up for this expansion. So I was happy that we got to play all of Early Access, and we're still currently playing the expansion right now. I'm not going to be talking about any spoilers to the story, because me and Jess, I think, are getting very close to wrapping it up. I think our characters are either 97 or 98. So yes, we're getting very close to the end. And I remember before Dawntrail came out, there was some discourse about people saying it looked boring, it didn't look like it had any high stakes, and I never understood that. I never understood how people could expect, after the near apocalypse of Endwalker, and this being the whole new start of a story that's going to last for years, why they thought we needed an end of the world scenario for Dawntrail. Like, that Dawntrail needed something like that, a very high stakes story to be important. You know, I never understood that. But before I get into the discourse about Dawntrail, I've enjoyed the main story so far. It does have a lot of surprising moments. I will say it is, at least in the first half, very laid back in a lot of ways, but it's supposed to be. It's not about saving the world. It's about a rite of succession. So, of course, it's not going to be as high stakes as, say, Shadowbringers or Endwalker, where you're trying to literally save a world. And I will say, as it goes on, it does get more serious. It does get more Final Fantasy. It eventually, by the time you get toward the end, it is a bit more serious, and there is a potential major threat that happens. But me and Jess love it, like, every day. Like, I hate that I gotta quit playing and then go to bed to go to work the next day. Like, every time we end a play session, we still have more questions. And to me, when it comes to an RPG, that's what makes a good RPG. It's always the storytelling and the characters. And with the storytelling, every time me and Jess stop for the night, we're left with more questions. We want to see what happens. You know, it's almost like next time on Dragon Ball Z. It's almost like that. And it's like, I don't want this roller coaster to end. Now, of course, it will eventually end, but thankfully, very soon we will be getting the updates for, like, the new raid series, which has its own story to it. Then, of course, eventually the first bit of patch content will come out, and Yoshi P is already writing the story for 8.0, which will be the next expansion. So there's a lot going on in the world of Final Fantasy XIV. Now, of course, we probably won't see 8.0 for another year or so, for another couple of years, but that's one thing great about Final Fantasy XIV. When new patch content comes out, you'll play it, you'll unlock new gear, you'll do all this, you'll do all that, and then you can go play other stuff until it comes back. And that's what makes it so fun for me to play with Jess. Like, it's a game that we both legit enjoy. And you gotta remember, I had a large start over Jess. I started playing 14 either in 2020 or 2021. And, like, I literally finished everything. The main story quest, all the raids, all the trials, everything, before Endwalker came out. I wrapped up Shadowbringers and all the patch content and all that. The Nier raid series and Eden and all that. I wrapped it all up, I think, about a week or so before Endwalker came out. So Endwalker was technically my first expansion release. Even though I think for the very first time I tried to play 14, I think Shadowbringers wasn't out yet. But as I've told the story, I got to the first dungeon and I chickened out because I was scared to play with other people because I'm a single player guy. You know, I sit down on my butt and play single player games. That's how I've always been. So 14 is really the first game where I ever really sat down and played with strangers. Had some good experiences, had some bad. But, you know, when Jess started, it was to get her ready before Dawntrail. And originally she started on the PS4 version. She started with the free trial. liked it so much that she ended up buying the full thing. And then for her early Christmas present / anniversary gift, I bought her a PS5 so she would get the faster loading times, and that new graphical update for Dawntrail would be more prevalent. And yeah, she actually wrapped up. Like, what we did was I would play New Game Plus while she played through the story, like, actually herself, so I could play with her. And yeah, we wrapped up all of Endwalker like a good couple of months ago. And she played like the last bit of Endwalker patch content, which introduced Wook Lamont and all that. I don't remember exactly what time it was, but it was a good few months before Dawntrail was even going to come out. So she got done way with a lot more time in between expansions than I did. But one thing I will say is that this game is more fun to play with someone else. Like, I love playing with her. That's not to say that if you enjoy playing by yourself, it's not enjoyable either. I played most of this game by myself, and I enjoyed it. Like, that's why I still think it's the best Final Fantasy game ever. It has everything in it that I've always wanted in a Final Fantasy game. A long, generational, like a long, egregious adventure. Being able to create your own character. And all the love notes to past Final Fantasy titles. Like, that's why I love Final Fantasy XIV so much. So, but yeah. The new characters are great. Wook Lamont, I love. I'm sorry if you're a Wook Lamont hater, but how could you hate that cinnamon roll? I don't know. She is definitely one of my favorite characters. And before I say this, don't get me wrong, I don't hate Lise in Stormblood, but I do think she wasn't written the best. I think Wook Lamont is how Lise should have been written. But they're two different characters. They accept things differently. They've gone through two different things. Lise definitely had a rougher childhood than Wook Lamont had. But the thing about Dawntrail is that it's, in a lot of ways, Wook Lamont's story. And that's what I want to get to about one of the biggest criticisms I've seen for Dawntrail. And that's the fact that the Warrior of Light, our character, the main hero, for the most part, takes a back seat in this expansion. Now, if you remember Stormblood, the Warrior of Light kind of did take a back seat in Stormblood because it was the story, really, of 4 other characters. Lise, Heian, Yotsuyu, and Fordola. But the Warrior of Light was still a major force in that game. In Dawntrail, I don't see how people expected a Rite of Succession story to still feature the Warrior of Light as a main focus. At this point, after everything that they've went through, the events of A Realm Reborn, the events of Heaven's Ward, the events of Stormblood, the events of Shadowbringers, the events of Endwalker, all the patch content, everything, I really think our Warrior of Light deserved a summer vacation. And yes, it's still an adventure with villains and danger and all that, but compared to what they've went through in the past, it's a very light-hearted, very low-risk, very low-danger adventure that I think the Warrior of Light deserves. They deserved a vacation. And this was how it was. Escorting a very cute but very naive princess, pretty much, around a whole region collecting gem badges, because that's kind of what the story is. But you know, like I said, I won't go into like a lot of the story because spoilers and all that. But the end part of Dawntrail, I will say, this is all I'll say on it, does seem like it's definitely going into a more darker story. And whereas Endwalker was kind of a love letter to Final Fantasy IV, there's definitely love letters to Final Fantasy IX in this game, in this expansion. And 9 being one of my top 5 favorite Final Fantasies, I hope the rumors of a remake are true. I love it. Like, whenever something happens, I tell Jess, oh my gosh, that's from Final Fantasy IX, you know, and stuff like that. But yes, I do not understand how people expected the Warrior of Light to be a main focus of a Rite of Succession story when it was very clear this is Wook Lamott's story. She's going to get the most character development. She's going to get the most screen time. It's also about her brothers and the people of Tural. And you kind of are a bystander in that. There's other characters who kind of allude to they kind of know who you are. But that's also another great thing. In Tural, the Warrior of Light is not the champion of Eorzea. They're not the Icon Slayer. They're not the liberator of Alamigo and Doma. They're not the savior of the star. They're not the Warrior of Light. They're just an adventurer that's helping one of the promises for the role of Dawn Servant. And that's kind of what Newfound Adventure, the patch content in Endwalker, kind of promised, and it didn't last very long. In this, yes, it's like you are literally returning to your roots in a way as just a normal adventurer. And Tural is a great setting for it. Some of the areas kind of remind me of Thanalan a little bit. It's mostly because that's where I began my adventure, because I started as a pugilist. And the different areas, the different landmass, the different people, you know, the different races that we've met. It's a very enjoyable expansion. Now, of course, like I said, me and Jess have not finished it yet, but where it's going, it's definitely Dawntrail, more so than any other expansion, definitely feels like there's an Act 1 and an Act 2. And Act 2 is definitely going to something way darker and way more serious, to where if you're not a huge fan of Act 1, you need to stick for Act 2. And so far, that's my thoughts on Dawntrail. I'm not going to say much more. I don't want this to be a very extremely long video. Thought about Long Day what I wanted to do a video on. It was either this or finally do a video on Wuthering Waves. But I felt like I had more to say for this video. So, yes, Warriors of Light, let me know in the comments what you think of Dawntrail. Personally, I'm enjoying it. I kind of like the laid-back adventure where it does feel like a summer vacation in a way, but it's definitely going toward a darker story as we plug along. But so let me know what you thought in the comments, and I'll let, if you've played Dawntrail yet, if you've already finished it, please do not talk about spoilers in the comments. As always, guys, this is Cannan. Once again, thank you all for 800 subscribers. We're actually already over 800 subscribers, so thank you all very much. Let's get to 900 very, very soon, and so we can finally start that final stretch to 1,000 subscribers. Me and Jess love you all very, very much. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.